Hey y'all, today we're going to be looking at some alien technology. This will be the first part of several videos, I think. So this one, we're going to talk about how the aliens may fly their ships, how they may maneuver them around and travel through space or time or whatever it is they do, and my thoughts on how they're doing it. So stick around and we'll get on into this.
Aliens are among us. No doubt about it.
So one of the main characteristics of UFOs that we see, or at least the ones that we think may come from out of this world, is that they can perform aerial maneuvers that far outclass anything we got here on Earth today. These UFOs can fly all over the place, stop on a dime, and turn and go the other way in the blink of an eye. And then they can just hover there right in midair. Now what technology would they have to be able to do this, making such abrupt turns at 5,000 miles an hour and not have themselves splattered all over the side of their ship as they're making these turns, assuming they've got some sort of alien pilot riding in there? So first off, we have to understand what they're not using, and we can pretty much rule out any sort of jet propulsion or rocket engine. For one thing, anytime you look at a UFO flying through the sky, you don't see no exhaust or flames coming out the back of it that would be indicative of any sort of traditional or conventional propulsion system. You wouldn't hear any sound coming from them. Many times they move silently or with a low humming sound. And this is mostly associated with these craft when they're hovering in one place. Now anything that involves internal combustion engines or rocket engines or anything of the like would involve all kinds of sound and flames and stuff shooting out the back, propelling it forward. Stuff that would be immediately noticeable when you see these things, but the thing is, we don't see anything like that. And along with that, you can rule out propellers or anything like a hot air balloon or lighter than air aircraft, because all those things can't perform at the rate these things do with the kind of accelerations they experience. Now what could power something like this? Now there's a couple of ideas of which we can conceive. Now there could be your traditional nuclear power through fission, which we're all fairly familiar with. We've known pretty well how to utilize that for the last 70-80 years. But we still really don't have a grasp of how we could employ something like that on an aircraft. Or it could be fusion energy, similar to fission but several times more powerful. Something that's a bit out of our reach now, even for the utilization in things such as power plants and the like. But you know, I think we are getting a little bit closer to it. We understand the physics of it, it's just the implementation of it isn't quite there yet. Another option would be the use of antimatter to generate the energy needed to propel these craft. Now antimatter is several orders of magnitude more powerful than fusion, with which we're familiar, about 1,000 times more powerful than it. Now so far, with our particle accelerators, we've managed to create about 15 billionths of a gram of antimatter, which is probably a good thing, because the moment it comes into contact with any sort of matter, so much energy is released you could flatten a whole city with just about a pound of this stuff. 2 pounds would make it more powerful than any nuclear bomb that's ever been created in the history of Earth. Being that these alien beings are likely so much more advanced than us, this could be an option for them. Maybe they've figured out how to control it and harness it and then use it to propel their craft forward and backward and up and down and any other which way you can think of. But there's more to it than that. You gotta look at their propulsion mechanism on top of the energy source that provides what's needed to move the craft. I don't think there's anything close to that capability being available here on Earth. You got anti-gravity, which is basically reversing the pull of gravity. You got zero gravity, which basically negates the effects of gravity altogether. And there's really not much in the way of engineering right now that's capable of putting something like that into practice. Another idea that I think is most likely is that these UFOs use some sort of gravity well to propel themselves forward. Basically, this distortion of gravity around the craft allows them to adjust and make the gravity pull them forward or backward or any which way. We have have increased gravity in the front, which is basically increasing that pull of gravity in the direction they want to go. And on the opposite side, you got a decrease in gravity, which is causing the same effect to move the craft in the direction they want to travel. And this idea of a gravity well is interesting, that it negates the need for an inertial dampener, which was, as I mentioned earlier, what you would need to keep these aliens from splattering onto the side of their ships as they're making abrupt turns and movements. So these ships would basically be in like a bubble around them with their own little field, and they're moving around, and it's as if they're sitting still inside their ship, and they're basically pulling the universe around them, so to speak. That kind of covers the function of their ships that we would see here on Earth. But what about up in space? How do they maneuver around and travel such vast distances between the Earth and whatever star system they come from, or even potentially other dimension they may come from? Now, there's plenty of conventional ideas out there that we could pretty much throw out the window. There ain't no way of producing the sort of speeds necessary to travel all that distance in a relatively short amount of time that would be needed, assuming they have shorter lifespans. I know there's stories out there of these guys living thousands of years, so that could be a possibility if they just want to be stuck on their ship for several millennia as they travel between the star system and back. But you could look at things like rockets and nuclear explosions to propel the craft forward. You can also look at things like solar sails that harness the radiation from the sun to move these ships. And these would take quite a while to reach the speed of light, or at least near it, because as you get closer to the speed of light, these things become infinitely massive as part of Einstein's theory of relativity. And then you also gotta take time dilation into effect, because traveling so close to the speed of light, you might be experiencing 1 year on your spaceship, but 1,000 years may pass, here on Earth. And yeah, that's something Einstein taught me as well. So they may need some sort of warp drive or hyperdrive to travel between the stars. And this could potentially allow for travel between other dimensions as well. The problem with the hyperdrive is it would be similar to using a gravity well. It'd basically have this increased area of gravity in front of them, and it wouldn't just be pulling their craft forward, it would also be pulling all kinds of other energy and particles inside this well as they're moving forward and approaching their destination, so that when they reach their destination, all this energy from these particles will just keep on moving and pretty much destroy anything that's in front of them. So they would basically destroy wherever they're heading. And that is a theory I've seen out there. Maybe an application that could be used to create something of a Death Star like you see in Star Wars, but it may not be very good if you want to travel somewhere and actually visit it. So being able to open a portal to the place where you're going by basically warping and bending space-time around and creating this gap, basically this bridge between you and the place that you're traveling to, may be the most efficient way to get to where they want to go without having to worry about all the time of traveling. But the thing is, that would require such a tremendous amount of energy, you don't even know where they would get that. I think it's beyond even our comprehension to understand how something like that could work. Because we're just basically beginning to understand things like quantum physics, and it's getting more to the point where it's going from science into somewhat of a philosophy, trying to understand these theories. And it just may be the case that whatever these aliens or whatever they are may have is well beyond our comprehension, beyond even our capability to understand. It wouldn't be just like taking a motorcycle back to 1700 and teaching these guys back then how to use it, showing them, the physics and all that. We can understand that as human beings. We have that capability. Even if we're not born into the society where it's already known, we could learn it because our brains have that ability. But I think it'd be more like what these aliens, it'd be like us trying to teach a dog how to do calculus. So they're just gonna look at you and wonder when they're getting their next meal. And that's kind of what the case may be when we're looking at this alien technology. That's pretty heavy stuff. So anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comments. How do you think that they're traveling around? If you think they're real or not. If you don't think they're real, I think you may be in the wrong place. But anyway, we're gonna wrap up this video. Click the like and subscribe button if you liked it, and if you want to see more, check out our website and check out our Facebook page. If you have any stories about UFOs or aliens or Bigfoots or any video footage that you'd like to share with us, send them to wildbluetvstories@gmail.com. And with that said, Wild Blue out.